All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Madera County Board of Supervisors meeting. It is Tuesday, November 12th. We will call this meeting to order. Are there any additions to the agenda, Madam Clerk?
The pending legislation area. Sorry, my mic doesn't sound very loud. It is a letter of recommendation to California Department of Transportation for the filling the role of District Director for District 6. This came to our attention last week after the agenda was posted, and this decision most likely will be made prior to your next meeting in December.
Thank you.
I would move to add the item. I'll second. That rose after posting of the agenda.
Supervisor McCulley,
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yes.
Supervisor Wamha,
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes,
And Supervisor Poitras is absent.
thank you. Next item is closed session. County Council.
Yes, thank you, Chair and members of the board. There are 5 items for closed session, some of them being multiple conversations on different items. The first is conference with your labor negotiators. Your designated representatives are Director Dixon, ACIO Joel Bogay, your Human Resource Manager Sabrina Mendez, and Susan Carter. The employer organization is all units and unrepresented employees, all classifications, but not elected officials. There's conference with your legal counsel under significant exposure to litigation. That's one case under Government Code Section 54956.9 subsection D2. Your 2 conversations regarding your appointment and employment of the Director of Behavioral Health Services and the Director of Public Works. That's the title of the positions. And 2 existing litigation matters under Government Code Section 54956.9 subsection D1. The first is a Madera County Superior Court case number MCV 086218. That is Cardoza and several plaintiffs versus the Madera County Groundwater Sustainability Agency and Madera Superior Court case number MCV 087677. That's Valley Groundwater Coalition versus the County of Madera. Thank you.
Thank you, County Council. We will now convene to closed session.
Chair, you might want to ask for any public
Oh,
comment
I
on closed
apologize.
session items.
Do we have any public comment? Seeing none, now we will convene to closed session. Thank you. Everyone, welcome to the November 12th, 2024 Madera County Board of Supervisors meeting. County Council, do we have anything to report out of closed session?
Chair, there's no reportable action from your first closed session. However, there still are agenda items to discuss later on in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I will share that Supervisor Poitras is out of town on county business. And so therefore, I'm chairing the meeting this morning. We also have Supervisor Rogers in the building, but not currently here. Do we have anyone that my colleagues would like to open and close the meeting in memory of?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to open and close in memory of, excuse me, Frank Sipes as a North Fork resident, kind of a staple at a lot of the community events up there. Him and his wife were kind of the core of a band, Good Medicine. They lived up in the Cascadel area, and last year during the storms, they got snowed in, lost their electricity for about 2.5 weeks. And so a friend of mine actually went up there with me, and we were able to dig them out. And I can remember shoveling his driveway, and he comes out and he goes, "My God, I got the county commissioner here shoveling my driveway." So I'm going to miss him dearly. And one of the most memorable things is when they would finish their their set, they would do the great version of Amazing Grace, but they would sing it in native Mono language. And so it's really a beautiful rendition. So you will be missed.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Anyone else? No? Okay, thank you. At this time, we will have our invocation and our Pledge of Allegiance. We have Pastor Lance Leach from Valley West Christian Center.
It looked green enough, but it wasn't green enough. Good morning, supervisors and staff and citizens. There's a lot here today, so I hope I don't go too long, but I know we had a beautiful day yesterday with our veterans and elections the week before. And of course, we're in the month of Thanksgiving and you don't meet for 2 weeks. So let us begin. God, we come before you. This is a beautiful month of celebrating harvest, which we are so thankful that this county is so dependent upon our farmers and their incredible abilities. And we thank you for them. We thank you for our veterans that we honored yesterday and for their service to our country. We thank you that we are in a country that is so beautiful, and it's because of them. It's because of their desire to selflessly set aside their heart, their desires, their purposes for this nation's, and they did that for seasons and times, and were blessed, and then many of them gave their lives because of that. And we thank you for our veterans. We thank you that they feel the weight of our honor and our thanks in this season. God, we thank you for a country that allows elections. And we know that in the county, there are many cities who are still looking at results. And we thank you that you're in charge of all of this. And we know that you've given us incredible people to help shoulder responsibility for the cities in this county. And then we come to you here for this county, and we're so thankful for it. We're thank you for the leadership here. We thank you for their directions, for their different communities. We're thankful and grateful for so much here in Madera, for our first responders, for our firemen across this county. And we thank you for a light season as of now, and ask you continued protection from the fires in our area. We thank you for our policemen. We thank you for the sheriffs. We thank you for the work that they do, that they are just mindful of not only our civilians and the people here, but those that might be trying to cause harm, and protect them, Father God, as they're out there on the streets protecting us. God, we thank you for this hospital that is getting closer to becoming a reality back here in our community. We ask you, Father God, for Godspeed in that. And we ask you, Lord, for our teachers again and our educators, and that are so valuable for instructing our young people, the pride and the blessing of this county. We ask that this season would be awesome, and that they would enjoy as they lead into Thanksgiving, and teach our young people. We have much to be thankful for, much to be grateful for. And with some great gratitude, God, I close today in thanking you for your provision over Madera County, all that we are and all that we will be. In your name we pray. Amen.
Man. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Leach. Okay, at this time, we will have public comment. Madam Clerk?
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board, but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record.
Green button, Bill.
Good morning, supervisors and Mr. Varney and county staff. My name is Bill Ritchie. I reside in Raymond. I speak here at the board often on issues regarding public safety and advocacy for the same. It's been a while since I've been here. I'd like to take the opportunity to summarize where we are with public safety needs and improvements that I see in Madera County. I may need to ask for a minute variance here to finish. The election that we just had brings opportunities for the county in a 2025 budget and beyond. Hopefully, we'll see an improved national economy and stimulant of residential and commercial development here in the county and assist the revenue profile going forward. This hopeful, successful passage of Measure T will give much needing breathing space, enabling Madera County to maintain current levels of public safety and budget priorities. And also for the city of Chowchilla, passage of measure in their public safety measure will offer, I believe, benefits to Madera County as well. I want to pass compliments on to the board and Pistoresi Ambulance. I've written you regarding some of these things. For implementing the new ambulance contract, I call it the quiet achievement. It didn't receive the acknowledgement and credit it deserves. All of you. Result of this, lives will be saved. Enhanced ambulance response times, improved deployment of EMS units on the valley floor. This is, I see, as a EMS professional for years, greatest improvement in emergency medical services in Madera County, first responders, paramedic level care, and that was in the 1980s. Thank you very much. Supervisor Wamhoff, I wanted to thank you for your informative and productive town hall meeting in District 1, focusing on improvements in traffic safety and plans for the Highway 31 corridor. And a very positive event. Also like to recognize Graber and his staff, the active participation they had, making that a successful event. I do remain frustrated with California Highway Patrol, Caltrans, the need for increased patrols during peak commute times, commercial enforcement, implementing no passing zones on 41 between Avenue 15 and Highway 145, I believe are big priorities that need to be addressed. Additional comments on emergency medical services for 2025. I wrote you all regarding current dispatch concerns. Successful outcome or lives saved in EMS depend upon a chain of survival. That's citizens, first responders, early defibrillation, advanced life support ambulances, all depend on strong links. Now have a strong link with the ambulance dispatch units. Have a weak link, I think, that exists still, and that's EMS dispatch of first responders. The current system is a voice-to-voice relay over radio. It results in dispatch delays due to workload, radio congestion, human factors, delays in notifying Mariposa Cal Fire dispatch on prior calls. This system literally turns for in the second response.
Turned off.
90 seconds are not uncommon, and hundreds of calls are processed between these centers monthly. There is a need to initiate an instantaneous digital link between these two centers, much that exists already between Fresno EMS and Fresno Cal Fire. Mariposa Cal Fire should have the same CAD to CAD interface that allows instantaneous and digital transfer of this information. I would hope the board and staff make this a high priority for the next year. This improvement is attainable, affordable, and necessary. In closing, the board has successfully funded much of Measure L, proposed tax measure that failed in 2017. We're successful in replacing, adding, and modernizing the fire fleet, implementing 2 firefighter staffing minimums, raising paid call firefighter pay, adding deputy sheriff positions. In closing, much work remains to be done. Continue to lose our PCS as they age out. Recruitment remains flat. Full-time stations are needed in North Fort, Bass Lake, YLP, and Chowchilla. I have to add again, over the last 40 years, District 2 in Chowchilla and the surrounding area has paid the price for growth in Madera County, losing full-time deputies and fire protection to meet the needs of southern and eastern Madera County in a time.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. If we can wrap it up. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Bill, for being so informed and helping us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Bill, I would add, if you want to go back to what we call the crying room back there, I was just texting with Director BOS, who we've been chatting with our EMS over in Fresno about that. She might be able to provide you with a little update. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, Bobby Kahn, I'm the interim Executive Director of Madera County Economic Development Commission, and at this time it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce the new incoming Executive Director, Christina Gallagher. I'm going to let her just introduce herself, and so I'll leave the rest of the time for her. Thank you.
Good morning, supervisors. I just want to say that I'm so excited to be here and have the opportunity to work with you all in this capacity. As a lot of you already know, I come from the California State Association of Counties, but just really looking forward to making Madera my home. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I left a stack of cards with the clerk, and I just look forward to working with all of you and ready to hit the ground running. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Mary Haygood in Merced.
Yeah, they're going to bend the mic down for you there so we can hear you clear. Thank you.
And my daughter lives here. She's lived here for 22 years with her husband and her children. And we have a concern about a trucking company, and I'm going to read my statement to you. My daughter and husband have lived on the same property for more than 2 decades. This past July, a problem started to affect them from a neighboring property at 22277 Avenue 18 and a half. An illegal trucking company set up business. Can you imagine a pop-up truck stop instantaneously setting up in front of your home? It's a mile from the Pilot. It's its competitor, cheaper real estate than Pilot. Cement was poured, fencing was erected, trucks, mini trucks began to arrive overnight. It must have been an established business elsewhere in Madera. Lights lit up, the engines roared, spewing exhaust next to her property. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 5 acres of trucks, lots and lots of trucks and truckers, cars and RVs, etc., coming and going. Phone calls were placed to code enforcement planning supervisor Rogers' office. $1,000 a day fines placed. Good, but quit. Never paid. Red tagged. Stopped work order issued. Good. Nothing changed. Did they secure a conditional work permit? The company is saying they would be allowed to stay. How can that be? Not commercial zoning. What about the environmental issues? Air pollution, lots of it. Noise pollution, light pollution. The detrimental effect of the business on property values in the neighborhood. Not to mention quality of life. The county needs to protect its citizens' health and well-being. Do we need to seek legal advice, or will the county do the right thing? Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
I'd just like to address you real quick
Yes.
on that matter. I'm the supervisor of record in that district.
Oh,
And
okay,
they are up to $40,000 in fines at this point. They are entering $1,000 a day fines. They've been cited 20 times. And be patient with the process, because we don't have police power to go in and just make this happen. It has to follow procedures. And there's a reason for that. The reason is we don't want to have government having the authority to just do its will against
Right.
people non-legally. But if you be patient, it's going to happen. They're reaching the point of no return. And
I hope so.
yeah, it's going to happen, and our staff is on top of it. So be sure to understand that we are working on this diligently.
I want to let you know that I've talked to several of them. They're wonderful. They're right there in the back.
Yeah.
And three
Matt
of them,
Schreiber and Jamie Bax.
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
They're,
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Supervisor Rogers. We
Yeah.
need to.
thank you very much.
Next, please.
We'll keep you informed on that too.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Haley Walsh of County of Madera. I'm also talking about the truck company. I was born and raised in a little piece of country heaven, 1 mile off of Highway 99. I felt safe, but always has been aware of the danger of the pilot truck stop. I'm sure I don't have to repeat the stories of women's bodies being found in almond orchards around our home. We always have had a peace of mind of our country life would stay because of Madera told us it would always want to maintain its agricultural intentions. In July of this year, we were excited to see what looked like new neighbors until those neighbors turned out to be a 24-hour, 7 days a week semi-trucking parking lot. Cyclone fixing was ejected overnight along with floodlights that shine directly into our homes and our neighbors' houses all night long, with truck idling, backing up warnings, beeping, and trailers dragging bottoms out of their parking lot onto Avenue 18 and a half nonstop. We placed calls into code enforcement, and we were told that they could get a permit and stay in business permanently. This has affected us a lot, but also had not only has it jeopardized our feelings of all safety, but also affected our sleep and my studies greatly. Downsizing our property value. Businesses should have to follow the rules. They should have to get permits in order to operate before opening a business, especially when it's not zoned for commercial. If we can't do it, they shouldn't be able to be operating here. Please do the right thing and stop this business that did not ask for permission, but is now just going to pay fines and ask for forgiveness. They are still operating. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, I'm Barbara, and basically here for the same thing. They've pretty much already said everything I had to say. They are directly across the street from my home, and their lights, I can't sleep at night, even though my bedroom's in the back of the house. My dogs bark all night because there's unusual noises they're not accustomed to. And it just, I mean, it impacts more than just our property value. I called concerning my property value, and their answer was that I could have my property reassessed and they would look at my tax rate and whatever. I don't feel that we should have to pay for that. You know, if it comes down to that, I feel that they should just send the assessor out and let him reevaluate all the property and make the adjustments from there. But I mean, obviously, you know, like I said, I am right across the street. If I decided to sell my property, nobody's going to buy it because they don't want to look at that out their kitchen window. And I literally stand in my kitchen window, which is in the corner of my kitchen, and no matter which way I look, all I see is the trucking company. They can't turn in safely because it's only a 2-lane road. So they're stopped in the middle of 18 and a half, which is a busy thoroughfare already. trying to turn into the property. And I'm just regretting the day there's a major accident because of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please.
Hi, good morning, supervisors and members of the community. My name is Jessica Melgoza, and I am wanting to introduce myself today as a district chief of staff for Ms. Gonzalez for District 4.
Thank you, Jessica. Welcome to the county.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. I am your Executive Director of the Workforce Development Board of Madera County. So I wanted to share with you this morning our program year 23-24 program impact report. This report is provided semi-annually from the Workforce Development Board. It includes data on our comprehensive job center, our enrolled job seeker demographics, career services provided, and business service activities. I wanted to highlight the investments that our local workforce system has made in our community over the past year on page 5. In total, we spent nearly $1 million on direct participant costs to support skills training, supportive services, and work-based learning opportunities. This also includes over $318,000 that employers were able to save in employee wages. And we would not be able to do this work without the support of our staff, our partners, and all of you, especially Supervisor Poitras, who represents the Board of Supervisors and sits on our Workforce Development Board. So thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Mai? Thank you, Mai. Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much. Appreciate it. Do we have any public comment online?
We do. Go ahead, Laura.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I have a couple of concerns that I wanted to mention. I understand that President-elect Trump has plans for deporting those who are in our country without legal status, and I'm concerned about some of the potential impacts on our county, and I wanted to encourage the board to start now to make plans, if they're not already in motion, on how to mitigate some of these concerns within our county. The first one is the impact on our county social services. As family members are deported, that could leave a single parent with children. It could leave children that are American citizens while the parents are deported to other countries, which would put additional stress on our foster care system. I have served as a court-appointed special advocate for foster children for the last 6 years. And so I know that our foster care system in Fresno and Madera counties is already very full, and it's often difficult to find enough homes for the children we already have. And so I have concerns about meeting the need of additional children in foster care, and again, potential increase in social services needed for single parent families and things like that, not to mention the long-term effects of children of being raised in foster care, including issues like substance abuse and homelessness, which are higher among our foster care population. And so that could be problematic looking into the future as well. And then my second concern, in addition to the need for increase in social services, is the impact on our local economy. We do have an agriculturally based economy here, with many of our workers coming from other countries on visas and then sometimes overstaying those visas, or sometimes entering the country illegally and then working here. And so I have concerns for the effect on our local economy, as many of the workers in the San Joaquin Valley could potentially be deported under President-elect Trump's plans. And so I would just encourage you all as leaders in the county to prepare and plan ahead in how we could address these potential eventualities and help our county to continue to be strong. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Anyone else from online?
And nobody else online, but I do want to report that I do have a public comment received to the clerk of the board's office on Monday, November the 11th at 4:34. And this was from Noah Lopez, and it will be placed on the record.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Okay, it's not quite 10:30 yet, so we will jump to item 6A, presentation of a proclamation for National Injury Prevention Day. And I will hand this over to Supervisor Wamhoff.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Do we have Christina Posma here? Did I say your name correctly? How do you say?
Pasma.
Pasma, okay. So do you have the proclamation, or would you like me to read it?
If you could read it.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So I have a proclamation here proclaiming November 18th as National Injury Prevention Day. So whereas injuries are the leading cause of death and disability to U.S. children ages 1 through 18, and whereas Safe Kids Central California, coordinated out of Valley Children's Healthcare, works collaboratively with community agencies, healthcare providers, schools, and government agencies to prevent tragedies resulting from childhood injuries by providing education and outreach to children and families through a variety of forums throughout Central California. And whereas throughout Central California, injuries impact the lives of thousands of children and families each year, with 733 children admitted to Valley Children's as a result of preventable injuries in 2023. And whereas Madera County is committed to creating a safe environment, ensuring the safety and well-being of our children, and National Injury Prevention Day raises awareness and promotes efforts to reduce injuries among children. So we are just so thankful that we have Valley Children's in our county and in our yard, not just as the largest employer, but being a top tier children's hospital known throughout the nation. And so we're just so thankful. And I think this is super important because we are talking about preventable injuries, preventable things, and it's the leading cause of death. And we have our law enforcement folks here, and being a police officer for the last 13 years, some of the most tragic things that we go to out in the field are childhood injuries and deaths, whether it's drownings, car accidents, those types of things. And so when it comes to education about teen driving or any of those things, it's so important. So I'm proud to have this proclamation. If you want to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Supervisor Wamhoff, and thank you, supervisors. Good morning. My name is Christina Pasma. I am the trauma nurse liaison for Valley Children's Hospital and the coalition coordinator for Safe Kids Central California. I am very proud to accept this proclamation today on behalf of our Safe Kids Coalition. Our coalition is one of hundreds of coalitions around the world. And our goal is to reduce the number one cause of death for American children, which is unintentional injuries. As a pediatric emergency and trauma nurse, I have taken care of critically injured children many times. And in many times, their injuries could have been prevented. National Injury Prevention Day was established to create awareness in local communities about the importance of injury prevention. Injury prevention includes education, advocacy, distribution of safety devices like car seats and bicycle helmets, collaboration, and more. One child injured or killed is one child too many. And I'm blessed to have a role in our community that takes me to a variety of places to speak on their behalf. I do believe that 99% of parents and caregivers wake up each day just trying to do the right thing for their children, but they often just don't know or have access to the resources to keep their children safe. It truly takes a village to keep our children safe and healthy. And as a resident of the Central Valley and an employee of Madera County, I am proud to accept this proclamation and your support.
And thank you, Christina. We'll go down and we'll take a picture. I forgot. Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I am going to go back to item 5, the consent calendar. I jumped the gun and we skipped the consent. Do we have any questions, or do any of my colleagues wish to pull any items on the consent?
Yes, Chair, I have a comment, a question, and a request. So we're looking at B,
B as in
AC,
boy?
yes, B as in boy, AC and AD, as well as AH. In regards to B, I just want to thank Amy Toller for all of her work, getting this spay and neuter program moving. And I also want to particularly thank you for setting up the transportation program up and down the mountain. Have some friends that were actually able to get their kitties over to the SPCA and get them transported down and transported back up, and it's working really well. So thank you for that. In regards to AC and AD, the backup just seems a little vague. And so I'm wondering if we might just have a better understanding of what equipment is being purchased with the grant funds, and what we're doing there. And if Sheriff needs a second, we can bump over to AH real quick, which is our, excuse me,
The interagency?
yeah, the Interagency Children and Youth Services Council. I was reviewing the structure there, and I noticed that we don't have a tribal representative. And I thought that might be an important consideration for the board, is bringing in a tribal representative, whether that's a voting member or non-voting member, to participate. I know that can be a very difficult demographic to provide services to, so I thought it might be helpful.
Good morning. I am Deborah Martinez, Director of Social Services and the Public Guardian. To your point, Supervisor, actually AB 2083, which is a founding document for our interagency committee, actually expects that, requires that. As of last year was required. It's always been attempted in our county, and our efforts are ongoing. They are, the administration of our tribals sometimes have difficulty, the number of things that they're involved in, and they just haven't had the scope of time, but they have been invited, and they will be continued to encourage to be participant.
Okay, if staff would like to circle around with me, I'd love to help bridge that gap with the tribes and ensure that we get a good representative that's committed to participating.
Right, and actually our Deputy Director over Children's is very familiar with the tribes and is a member herself.
Oh.
So she will absolutely look for that. Nikki Matiz in the audience.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
And Commander, I do want to say I appreciate all the work that you guys are doing. It's just, it seems like the backup is lacking a little bit, and I think it would be beneficial for the board as well as the public, just to have a little bit more information in regards to what's going on.
Absolutely, Supervisor. I'm Jason Clark, Assistant Sheriff at the Sheriff's Office. We applied for a grant through the Health and Human Services Department, and we received that grant. And in requesting funds to purchase emergency-related vehicles and equipment, and one of those pieces of equipment was a Sherp all-terrain vehicle, which is something that we can use in the high country during different type of events, such as like a snowstorm or event that we have. This vehicle can go over all kinds of terrain, and we can use it in conjunction with the snowcat that we have. We also requested a emergency style vehicle, 4x4 all-terrain vehicle to tow it with a trailer. We also asked for a Linco Medcat, which is a armored style vehicle, which will replace one of the armored cars that we have. However, this one is outfitted with medical equipment such as oxygen, workstations, places to provide patient care. It also comes with a water nozzle, remote control one. So if we happen to go into an incident, we can tow behind a water power trailer or attached to a fire hydrant. It'll provide some fire resistance there. We also asked for a striker power equipment setup for one of our vehicles. We asked for some radios. We also asked for an automated CPR machine, which we can carry in any one of those vehicles, which will provide compressions on the long journey, so everybody wouldn't tire out while using it.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do any of the other supervisors have any questions on it? And then do we have any members of the public who wish to provide comment? Anyone online?
No comments online.
I'll bring it back to the board for,
Move to approve. Second.
We have a first and a second roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh.
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley.
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I know we have a 10:30 hearing scheduled. We have one more proclamation though. Let's take care of the proclamation first. Item 6B.
Social Services Department presentation of proclamation naming November 2024 as National Adoption Month.
Good morning, everyone.
I mean,
Let my team join me here. Good morning, supervisors, county administrator, community members. My name is Nikki Matus. I'm the Deputy Director of Social Services for Madera County, and I oversee child welfare. I'm honored to be here with some of our adoption unit for the proclamation of National Adoption Month. Unfortunately, we're missing our adoption supervisor, Vanessa Sells, due to her not feeling well, but I wanted to make sure I gave her a special thanks for her and her team coordinating such a wonderful adoptions event last week. The adoptions team and child welfare staff did a phenomenal job in creating a warm, fun, and creative space for families to come together and celebrate. We had a great turnout, and our families were able to take part in crafts, connect with service providers, share a meal, and some families were able to finalize their adoptions. I also want to say a special thank you to Judge Bender and his staff for joining us and making that day special by finalizing those adoptions. I also want to recognize the work that the Adoption Unit and Resource Family Approval Unit do on a daily basis to care for some of our most vulnerable youth in our community. Their commitment supports Madera County youth in finding a safe and caring home during some of the most difficult days of their lives. I also want to thank the families who make the choice to open their doors to our youth without judgment at all hours of the night and day and making them a part of your family. Your commitment to show up for the youth in our community time and again is admirable, and we appreciate you immensely. And I'll now hand it over to our Adoption Unit Program Manager, Cindy Friesen.
Nikki said it all. It's really a privilege to work over the adoptions unit. They have really tedious work following the letter of a law to make sure everything goes smoothly all the way to the adoption process of finalization with hopefully no objections, no overturning. It's a big job, and I appreciate that. It's a great team. And then we also have some really wonderful foster families that our team works with. So let me introduce. Oh, sorry. We have Pua, Pua Zhang, and Pua is the social worker for this lovely family. We have Yuri. She is our program assistant, does amazing things. Magdalena Fitzgerald on the left there. And we have a new social worker who is shadowing us today. So we're fruit. And then this is our family. Who did you want to say anything, or should we just let the family come up? Okay. All right. Well, come on up because they'd like to share.
Good morning, everyone. My husband and I would like to thank you for allowing us to receive this award. It is such an honor to us and a huge accomplishment. I would like to share a little of our story. After conceiving 2 children of our own, we faced infertility issues. In 2017, we were called to become foster parents to our niece and nephew, and in 2018, they became our daughter and son. Since then, we have opened our home to 6 beautiful children, 3 of them who we have said goodbye to, but have loved and nurtured as our own. Through our journey, we have faced challenges that no one prepares you for, but we've always pushed forward because we believe every child deserves a chance. In 2023, we adopted our daughter Zariah, who became our 5th child. And just a few days ago, we adopted our 6th child, Zaylee. We are currently fostering our adoptive daughter's biological sister, and she is our number 7. I know what y'all are thinking. Wow, that's a lot. But after all, I am living my dream. My mom said I always had 2 dreams as a child. Every time she asked what I wanted to become as an adult, it always came down to 2 things, a model or a babysitter. And I think it's clear the model career didn't work out. But I am here living my dream, babysitting 7 beautiful children until they are off to college and chasing dreams of their own. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, any comments from the board?
Yeah, Chair, I just wanted to take a quick second to recognize and invite up one of our IT department folks. He's looking up right now. Wesley, if you want to come up when we do a photo, that'd be great. Had a chance to talk with Wesley before the meeting. And he's had a big week. Not only did he get engaged on Saturday, but on Friday he'll actually be taking the leap to foster his, I believe, his first child. So I wanted to make sure he comes up and participates in the photo with us.
And Jerry, I just have
Congratulations.
one thing to say.
I'm sorry to embarrass you.
You pulled him out of the cave back there, the IT cave. I said this last year, but I want to say it again. My sister is adopted, and there's no question who the favorite child is. It's her, and it's just the way it is. So there's some power with adoption.
Now, this subject's very near and dear to me. My wife was an adopted child, and to think of the difference she's made in so many lives, it's just amazing. As a teacher, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children still love her and come up to me and say, you know, how's Mrs. Rogers? And she's my favorite teacher ever. And of course, there are 3 sons and 8 grandchildren who think the world of her as well. So adoption is such an important thing. And I want to, I'm sorry. You really touched me with your story. I just can't. It really touches me that that's your heart. And we need more people like you in the world. You and your husband. Because every child does deserve a chance. And they are God's children. And you have done a great thing. And those children are going to raise up and call you blessed. They are going to be, you're their mom, you're their dad. It's more than biology to be a parent. Thank you. And I'm sorry for getting so emotional. It's so close to my heart. Thank you.
I just wanted to share that Yvette and I were able to attend part of the ceremony, in particular your adoption ceremony, and you had a very large and supportive family group there with you. And I also wanted to tell DSS they did a fantastic job. On the first floor, we didn't eat any of the burritos that were intended for the families, but it sure was tempting. So the room was full of energy and it was super welcoming. So great job, and thank you for adopting.
Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item?
None online.
Okay, thank you. So it is past 10:30. We will jump into our public hearing. Item 7A.
Community and Economic Development Department, Planning Division, hearing to consider a letter of public convenience and necessity to obtain a Type 20 off-sale beer and wine license to allow the sale of beer and wine at a convenience store. The property is owned by Ahmed Nadim and is located on the south side of Avenue 14 at the intersection with Road 24, 2410 Avenue 14 Madera, parcel number 045-141-001, is zone commercial rural medium and residential rural single-family district.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jamie Bax with Community and Economic Development. With me is Sam Rache, a senior planner from my office. This is a letter of convenience and necessity request from the applicant, and Sam will be going through some slides describing the site itself. Just as a reminder, this is a request for that license and not for the retail sales of the site. It is zone commercial currently. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Sam.
Good morning, supervisors. So the applicant is Seema Rainey. So this is a letter of convenience and necessity. As previously stated, the location is on the south side of Avenue 14 at its intersection with Road 24. This is for an ABC license type 20. This is in a land use designation of LDR with the zoning of commercial. This is part of Census Tract 5.12. And this are the other ABC licenses within a 2-mile radius. As you can see, there are some that are outside of the 5.12 census tract. Again, this is a ABC type 20 license for off-premise alcoholic beverages. This type of license is typically used for convenience stores, grocery stores, and things of those operations. Due to a permanently established moratorium, an ABC license requires a letter of public convenience and necessity, which is approved by an authority. This is located, again, as stated, in in Census Tract 5.12, which is permitted to have up to 4 Type 20 license. And there are currently 3 licenses that have been issued, so it hasn't met its maximum criteria. With that being said, staff does recommend approval of the ABC license for letter of convenience and necessity. So if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Open the public. Okay.
Well, Chair, let me clarify that. If any you supervisors have questions for staff, you can ask those before you open up the public hearing. You have an opportunity after the public hearing is closed as well.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments by the supervisors? Okay, so this is a public hearing. We will now open the public hearing. Come on up.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Bobby Kahn, not acting as the interim director of the Madera County Economic Development Commission, but acting as an independent consultant working pro bono for the applicants. Just wanted to give you a brief history. This has historically been a convenience store owned by a family owned business for many years, the Glossy family, and has been closed for several years as the Mr. and Mrs. Glossy passed away, and the property was inherited by the children, but they didn't maintain the store. It did fall into some disrepair, but since the purchase by Mr. Nadim Ahmed, he's done significant repairs to the property, improving the parking around the property, and is made significant other improvements to the property. Seema Rani and her husband plan to open a small family business there, and just run a small convenience store with just beer and wine that will be consumed offsite. It's just for the purchase and to take it home for consumption. They're a hardworking young family that just wants to try to venture out into the world and open up their own business. So I encourage you to support this project, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Bobby.
By the way, Seema and her husband are here now. If you just
Anyone else?
We see you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nadeem Ahmed, 730 Shannon Avenue, Madera, California. I'm the owner of the property. And I would like to, as Mr. Sam said, is a according to ABC, they were saying this attack is 5, so there is still a room for 1 ABC license. And I just wanted to share some pictures, if you allow me, before and after, if it's okay. These are the picture before. These are remodel. These two. Nice. What a transformation. As you may have seen this property, a lot of you may have already have been into the business before when it was running as a Liberty Castro. And adding an ABC license is in this use benefit the community both and the business. And like I said, most of you may have already been into this business. We wanted to bring this back and to see if we can open up this store. There is a potential economic growth from getting the ABC license. ABC license could increase customer traffic, improve sale, and draw new business, and will help boost. And we will create few jobs, and also we will create fair share of tax generate. Will be also tax be generated on this business. This license will fill a gap as there are only 3 licenses, and having another establishment with ABC license could increase convenience for residents, create positive community impact. Our commitment to following the ABC license guideline and maintain responsibility for alcohol and service, I assure you we will have a trained employee that will promote safe and legal consumption practice. And we always train our employees, and that's all I want to say, and would like to see if you approve this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, unless Mr. Nadeem objects, my recommendation is that these are maintained by the county and kept by the county as part of the open public hearing and are open for anyone to inspect. Can
I
the
don't see any.
county keep them, please?
Sure.
Okay, otherwise we'd have to do Plan B, but thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Not online?
Come on up.
My name is Ron Garner, and I live not even a quarter mile down the road from the store on the same side of the road. And I've been there my whole life. I'm 74 years old, so I've lived in the area my whole life. 10 years down at the mobile home across the street, and 36 years now in the house I'm at. And the store was closed most of that time that I've lived there. And I was, sorry to see it go and stuff, but for the time it was open back in the 50s. It wasn't designed for the traffic stuff that we have today. Back in those days, they had semi trucks going to the wineries and all over the area out there. It's really busy, semi trucks going out that way. And the largest truck they had was 40 foot, 45. Well, now they got 53 footers making that same turn where their parking is. they're gonna have to park. They're parking as I just by there today, and they repainted the lines not being right, so they try to make it right to an angle. But no matter what, them coming out of their parking, someone backing out of their apartment, has to back into the road. No other store in the whole area has to back in the road. They have enough land out front where they can make their original turn out, get back on the road safely. Their store is right on the corner. You have semis turning there, going over both lanes of the road and everything else. You have the winery people parking all the way back past the store, trying to hit the stop sign to get up there. If they were going to do this, they have the land to do it. Just the side of the door, their front door, there's the lawn there. They could have put the parking further back in and where people didn't have to back into the street. But now you got trucks turning there dangerously, them backing in the street to get in and out of the place. It's going to be too dangerous. That's a dangerous corner in the whole county. You can check the record. If they were going to do this, it'd be fine if they would redid the parking back further and got it where people could turn. So that's problem number one. Problem number two is the back of the property or up against their store there. They have, they're trying to run a business there of party rental, where they rent the property to people for parties, like Petrucci's old school. Petrucci's old school was the old Howard School, and it was zoned for public engagement, parties, and everything else. And they've been having parties there now. They say it's for them or something else. I don't know. But I think they're renting the place out or renting to friends or giving it to friends. But they're parking out on Avenue 14, which is a bike lane, all the way down a quarter of a mile because they don't have the parking. But they're being allowed to have parties to the back of the property, and you can go out there and look at it. It's set up for parties. Okay.
If you can conclude your comments, Mr.
Pardon me?
We have 3 minutes. If you can
Oh, well,
conclude.
yeah, okay. Well, okay. The back of their property, they're renting out for parties. So if they start selling liquor there, are they going to be allowed to bring that liquor on the same property back to the party? The party never ends.
It's offsite. It's offsite.
Offside license, so they can take it out, but they can't drink it on the property.
Right.
So no drinking would be allowed in that back property.
It's not a bar.
Okay. So no drinking would be allowed in that back property where they're doing the parties now. Is it zoned for parties? Is it a public gathering like the other Howard School is? So if they're renting that place for parties for people, can they do that with no zoning? And bring beer from the store that you're letting them all sell, but they're going to bring the beer. The party, Petrucci's, you take your beer there, you leave the beer there. There was no place to buy more beer. So when you ran out of beer, that was it. The party was over. But now, if you're going to have 15 steps to go around and get more beer, the party never ends.
Okay,
I think we've heard some of your concerns. We might have an opportunity to get some clarification from staff in regards to your concerns around parties. Or are they?
Yeah, let's take
Let's
take the next public comment, and
Yeah.
then once we close public comment, we'll get some feedback from staff.
Arter, and I also live within a quarter mile of Liberty Cash.
Can't hear you, ma'am.
Sorry. And I agree with everything that my neighbor just revealed to you. And I have a couple of other concerns because I have also lived in that area almost all my life. And I'm 70 years old. I grew up right there. And when the store was Liberty Cash and there was also a gas station there in front. And I was told that there was gas tanks underneath the store. some friends of mine wanted to buy the property and turn it into a little coffee shop, but they were told that they couldn't, that they would have to take out the gas tanks before they could do that. And they did not have the money to take out the gas tanks. And so they didn't buy it years ago. And also, I have a neighbor who had, when the gas station closed, they had put, they were paid, they were, a neighbor was brought sand over to put in the gas tank. And I don't know why there's no record of the gas tanks being under there, because I have called several times and they said that there is no record of gas tanks being under there. But I grew up there. I know there was gas tanks underneath there. And so that's one of my concerns, that the gas tanks were never taken out. And then also the emphasis on parking. It's very dangerous. That's a very dangerous corner. It's because the store is at an angle, like my neighbor said, they have to back out into the road. And my concern with Howard School getting out, and both Road 24 and Avenue 14 are very, very busy roads nowadays, not like they were years ago. And so that's basically what I want to say. I agree with everything my neighbor said. I do not want the alcohol sold there because of the emphasis on the dangerous of parking and everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? Do we have anyone online?
Nobody online to comment.
Okay, I will now close the public hearing and bring it back to staff.
I'd love to address some of the questions that were brought up. The parcel does have split zoning. So it does have commercial in the front and residential in the rear. Generally for events, an outdoor event permit is usually requested. We can look in our records. I don't have any indication of that at this time. However, if they were to want to do that, there's a process for them to go through. In regards to parking, that is also a matter of zoning, and we would absolutely look at in regards to making sure that it complies with parking regulations of the zoning ordinance and the building code as well. And then also I have been following up with environmental health on records for the gas tanks. So I'll be in contact with the property owners in regards to those records, and I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have.
I just wanted to specifically in regards to parties. So from my understanding, they're not conditioned to be able to do events at.
Correct.
And so if the neighbors were concerned about events taking place, they should probably call code enforcement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Yeah, and I just want to state that code enforcement does follow up on those things. So if there are issues in that regard, they do follow up. I deal with that regularly. So, and also the issues of turning around and this and that. I'm sure the owners will address all of that and make sure that there's safety involved and the county will also oversee the code in that regard as well, and traffic. So just want to make those statements clear.
And Jamie, in regards to environmental health, will they go out and do soil samples to ensure that the ground's not contaminated, or what's the process?
Generally not. I think it was a matter of requesting records. If there was a request to put in new tanks or some type of a request to build some type of facility that did require a soil sample, then it can be done at that time. But for this particular use, since they're not replacing the building itself and the building is already there, there was no requirement to do that.
Yeah, I think, this is all centered around a beer and wine license, so,
Right.
Parking, as long as they meet county code requirements, all the applicable laws. I mean, I have seen the intersection and I have seen that portion of the store. There is a very small area to park, and it is, I mean, I would be interested to see what that parking striping looks like, because it looks pretty goofy to me. But as far as I'm concerned, none of those things outside of an event party place has any has any bearing on a beer and wine license. That to me would be the only thing. And, to concerned residents, our code enforcement and our community economic development team, they do an excellent job with following up on those types of things and giving warnings and notices where applicable and fining property owners where applicable as well. And if they're operating outside of the scope of county ordinance, then they'll go through the proper county protocol as far as what's going to happen to them. So, as far as I'm concerned, sticking to the beer and wine license issue at hand. And
Right.
so that's my comment.
Right, this isn't a CUP
Not a CUP hearing.
It's about the beer and wine license, period. I think that's a good point. Thank you.
So with that,
I'll move to approve the request.
I'll second.
we have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Rogers,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhoff,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And good luck to you.
Item 7B.
Public Works Department, Engineering Services Division, hearing to adopt a resolution establishing Madera County Underground Utility District 17 for an underground conversion program along the north side of Avenue 9 between Road 23.5 and Road 24 in the Madera County Lavina area.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Jared with Public Works. So this hearing is for formation of a underground utility district in the Lavina area. Just to kind of backtrack a little history here, the county is undergoing a project to install sidewalks and pedestrian facilities out in the Lavina area along Avenue 9, specifically on the north side and partially on the south side. This process is to form the underground district in order to be able to underground the utilities that are now overhead and make room for these facilities that we're going to be installing. The board took action to set the hearing on October 1st to set the hearing for today, November 12th. There were 24 properties that were noticed, both in English and Spanish. We received no comments or responses to those notices that we're aware of. And so we're here today for consideration of formation of a district. I would just point out that the cost of this undergrounding is going to be covered by Rule 28 credits. There will be no cost to the residents. It's approximately $2.5 million worth of improvements for that undergrounding. And then with that, we will have the pedestrian facility project, which is about another $2.5 million. So all in all, we're looking at about a $5.5 million investment in Lavina. I'm available for any questions.
Questions, comments from the board?
Approximately how many houses are in Lavina?
I do not know the answer to that. I apologize.
No, just an approximate.
I would say there's probably
80.
80 or so.
Yeah, there's probably close to 100.
Yeah, 80 to 100.
Yeah.
If you're talking about that little community itself.
Sure. Most of them are on the south side of Avenue 9 in the community.
Right.
So street lights, sidewalks, curbs, gutters. Is it and this is a non-incorporated, right? This is and this is an underserved community who receives millions and millions and millions of dollars every single year from places all over the state and federal government. And it is, and I only say this rhetorically because it blows my mind. Everyone refers to this as an underserved community. This is one of the most served communities in the county of Madera. And this is not any slight on the people who live there. It's not. But, more groups that want to say that we don't do enough for, these quote unquote underserved communities.
Anyone else? This is a public hearing. I will now open the public hearing. Do we have any public comment?
None online.
None online. I'll close the public hearing. And
I move to approve the district.
Second.
a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhoff,
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now go into item 8A, our GSA reports. 8A.
Board of Directors, Groundwater Sustainability Agency, and Water Natural Resources Department. Informational update on Madera Subbasin Joint Groundwater Sustainability Plan, periodic evaluation, and plan amendment.
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Let me get a short PowerPoint up. Okay, let's get started. This is an update to the update I gave last month in October. I'd like to walk you through the plan amendment and periodic evaluation timeline. In October, we gave an update to your board, and staff was reviewing the joint GSP plan amendment. As of now in November, the draft plan amendment is public. It's on MaderaCountyWater.com. We've done an e-blast. It is under the Madera Subbasin. So there is a plan amendment to review right now. It will be under public review until the 20th of December, and we'll do a webinar in December on the 5th as well about key changes. Then you'll see this again coming to you in January, and the respective GSAs will hopefully adopt the plan amendment. And this is a little different. We talked about this last time. The plan is not being redone, revised, or updated. The language from the state is a plan amendment when you make substantive changes, particularly to sustainable management criteria. So I'll go through what changes have been made. In our letter from DWR, they noted that not all GSAs had adopted GSPs as of right now. They all have adopted the previous GSP and will need to adopt the plan amendment as well. DWR also noted that we needed to continue coordination among the GSAs, and they have provided some facilitation support services funding to help with that. We continue to coordinate through technical staff and have come to consensus regarding data methodologies and how to use the groundwater model. DWR also noted in the sustainable management criteria that they wanted more details and explanation, particularly as it related to groundwater levels, subsidence, and water quality, which you'll see in the next slides. We completed additional modeling. We interviewed managers of critical infrastructure, including cities, counties, and the lower San Joaquin Levee District, and have developed a clear and consistent nexus between groundwater levels and subsidence. Speaking of subsidence, we have a lot of work here in the plan amendment that has been proposed. DWR said the sustainable management criteria needed to be revised. So we needed to think through what significant and unreasonable conditions meant and develop a maximum cumulative subsidence rate, which is proposed at 2 feet total between last December and 2040. The minimum thresholds and measurable objectives are 0 with a bit of uncertainty of 0.16 feet per year. The hydrologic conceptual model needed to be updated and clarified in terms of how much uncertainty was in there. We have added a subsidence modeling package, which was not available from the state last time. So that has been added. And then lastly, in terms of water quality, the GSAs agreed to look at the same key constituents and adopt the same approach. We've also added some clarifying text. Although it's a plan that's hundreds of pages, it does appear the state wants it to be a bit longer. So here is a slide that we can use when reviewing. This is intended for members of the public to just look at what key changes have been made. I should note that the changes were made in track changes, which is style of editing in Microsoft Word, where you can see all of the edits. It is to increase transparency. So you can see when a letter changed or a date changed or text was added as a paragraph. So in summary, we have new figures in chapters 2 and 3. We have new appendices. We also have updated resolutions in chapter 1. In chapter 3, we've updated the sustainable management criteria. We've added a subsidence and interconnected surface water work plan. We've actually formed a group with Friant and the Bureau and the Kings Subbasin to talk through interconnected surface water. Friant is concerned that they are releasing water at the dam and the water is never making it downstream to Gravelly Ford. They think that's because it is going into the ground and being extracted as groundwater. So that is really the interconnected surface water nexus, and we have a working group. In chapter 4, we've also added some grant agreements that are supporting various efforts, including one through SB 552 funds that is helping us work through domestic well mitigation rules in the Madera Subbasin. So just to summarize, the Madera Subbasin Joint GSP Plan Amendment is now public. It is up for the public to review at maderacountywater.com under the Madera Subbasin tab. If you have comments, I am the plan manager, so they can be emailed to me. The plan will be in public review until the 20th of December, and we will take all of those comments, put them into a matrix, read, absorb, and then write an explanation of how they were addressed. This concludes my update on the plan amendment and periodic evaluation. I'd be glad to take your questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. Do you have any questions or comments from the board? None. Do we have any public comment? Do we have anyone online?
None online.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Item 8B.
Board of Directors, Groundwater Sustainability Agency, Water and Natural Resources Department, informational update on county groundwater sustainability agency fees.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, members of the board. This is an update on a request that MAWA has made for 5 years worth of financial analysis. So I thought it best to present this in public for the benefit of everyone. Here is an outline. We'll talk briefly about the county GSA and really the robust agency that we've created together over the past 5 years. I'll walk you through county standard budgeting process, which I think you are aware of, but perhaps the public would benefit from that. We'll walk you through some key concepts related to the admin fee and then financial analysis and cost saving measures. So as you know, the county GSA is actually a GSA in 3 different subbasins in round numbers representing about 120,000 acres that are irrigated and about 100,000 that are rangeland or ranches. Over the past 5 years, we have led efforts in terms of GSP development initially from 2018 and 2019, turning them in 2020. 3 separate plans in 3 subbasins. All of them had to be revised at some point, either for DWR or later with the State Water Resources Control Board. We're now in the amendment part for the Madera Subbasin. Chowchilla and the Delta Mendota are still addressing revisions requested by the State Board in order to avoid a probationary hearing. We've added to the work that we do annual reports. That includes the periodic evaluation every 5 years. And we've helped build through grant funds a robust network of monitoring wells. These are triple completion monitoring wells, and they've been paid for through rounds of Prop 1 and Prop 68 grants, 7 in the Madera Subbasin originally, 7 in Chowchilla, then another 4 in Chowchilla, and 3 in Madera. They're also all tied to our Prop 68 recharge work. There's additional grants there. So really building a network of reliable, dedicated monitoring wells. Our current projects and management actions include a very significant demand reduction program that offers 3 measurement options. We have a meter verification project. This is for people who wish to access all 3 measurement methods. We have a separate process that includes staff work and field work with meters, as well as at the end of the year, looking at Land IQ and EraWatch. We've also have 5 recharge grants, 2 land repurposing grants, an additional planning land repurposing grant, and we have a domestic well mitigation program being developed in Madera and already in place in Chowchilla, also being developed in the Delta Mendota. And we spend a considerable amount of time on grower outreach and education and sitting down with farming families as they negotiate what is a very tricky landscape now and into the future. So the standard budgeting process that we use at the county is December. We get budget directions emailed at the end of the year, typically on December 24th, which is sort of a Christmas present, I guess. We do our internal budgeting January and February, turn that in March to county admin, and then have meetings or a series of meetings with county admin regarding the draft budget. Then we have a budget hearing in June for the fiscal year that starts in July. At the budget hearing, we look at a proposed budget for the next year. We look at budget to actuals from the previous year. And probably I don't need to remind you that often we don't close out a fiscal year until period 13 ends in July and August. So sometimes there are ongoing changes. So the original rate study in 2019 was for a fee that could be adopted prior to GSP adoption, and it can only go towards administration planning and regulatory compliance. So this fee was Prop 26 and Prop 218 exempt, and it outlined these basic categories: regulatory compliance, professional services, which is a typical account you'll see in public agency budgets, usually paying for engineering, planning, financial services, staffing, administration, and a reserve. And the reserve had a 10% of its budget for a prudent reserve, plus an amount that we would save each year of $160,000 for the GSP work. And this is key. The county GSA budget really is on a longer 5-year cycle, which we hope to complete within the next couple of months. GSP work originally was somewhere between $1 million and $1.5 million a GSP. It's a major expense, but it's not one that you're incurring every year, fortunately. You do need to save and prepare for it, though. So that's what that $160,000 was. And I did a little bit of poking around and to see what other agencies were using for prudent reserve. I saw McMullen was at 15%. So we're a little bit lower than what's a comparable agency south of here. So then we begin some financial analysis. We basically have two larger categories: revenue and expenditures. In terms of revenue, we receive a significant amount of grant revenue, and I'll show that on the next slide. The GSA also receives money if GSA staff assist with flood control, and we have had some flood control absences in terms of staff. So flood control will reimburse the GSA for use of staff time. We also have the GSA admin fee in terms of the funds that are collected per irrigated acre by grower, penalties, and interest. So then shifting to the expenditures, we've done a great deal of discrete analysis, meaning we are breaking what's a larger bucket into categories. Regulatory requirements includes the annual reports, all of the GSP development work, but also periodic evaluations and amendments. We have an other category that's not very high, but it's we're all paying towards a point of contact in the Madera subbasin. That's done by David's Engineering. We were required in subbasins with multiple GSPs to develop a data management system. That's in there. The well, in terms of putting in monitoring wells as well as taking reads from wells, is a service, as well as a very large demand management or demand reduction program. Legal services, I think, are a little bit more self-explanatory. We have legal, we have land repurposing, financial services. This would include Raftellus, and occasionally during the GSP work, we had some chats with bond counsel, recharge, and a miscellaneous bucket, which for the most part has included consultants that didn't fit in the above categories. We had a consultant called Corona who did a water marketing project a while ago. They would have been in this bucket. So these are the major categories. Again, that prudent reserve on the bottom. Most agencies are trying to store 6 to 12 months worth of expenses in reserves for crises. In our case, the crisis is really that every 5 years, you're going to have a big outlay of cash for the GSP development. And originally that was paid through Prop 1. It is somewhat paid through Prop 68, but there is a significant gap that is covered locally. So here is a summary of revenue. It's also perhaps a blue-green color blindness test, depending on how your vision is. So I'll walk you through each color. So green here is the grant revenue. So you can see in 1920, about $4 million coming in to the county GSA in grant revenue. And that is basically paying the county back for the GSP development in multiple subbasins, Madera and Chowchilla. You can see the green categories are reduced in 2020, 2021, and then they're coming back in 2022 and 2023. The GSA fees were not present in fiscal year 1920. You can see them present kind of in 2021 and further moving ahead. They escalate at a consumer price index rate that we pull at the end of the year. So now looking at expenses. So you can see that for the first 3 years, expenses were under the black line, which represents revenue. And the last 2 years, as we're getting into GSP work, over the line that represents revenue. So this is what I mean about really a 5-year cycle. Any 1 year here might be high or low, depending on how much grant money comes in. But when you look at it overall, you're looking at making sure you have enough for the GSP work. So just walking through this, you can see the administrative expenses are very small. Professional services are growing over time. I would anticipate that they are probably peaking, but they are mostly either grant funded, where we have consultants being paid through our grants, or they are supporting the demand management program. You can also see the significant amount of time that is spent with regulatory requirements. So I've chosen to zoom in a little bit on the regulatory requirements just for your information. So this is those categories we talked about: annual reporting, GSP development, that would include revisions as well as the plan amendment. The other category is the point of contact contract. Wells, you can see last year we're at 161,000. And then the majority, the 75-ish%, is in this demand management. So what exactly makes up that? It is a series of measurement options that includes well readings and the software that supports them and the QA/QC that supports them, AeroWatch and the work supporting it, as well as Land IQ and the work supporting it, and then added the verification project, which is that contract that we had last year where we are able to show people at the end of the year where 3 measurement methods left them. This shows our reserves, keeping in mind that the goal is the 6 to 12 month number. You can see that we are pretty much right on in 2023-24, where the blue line showing the prudent reserve hits the bar. So I think, again, more evidence that the budget works on a 5-year cycle because of those large outlays of cash that you need in order to get through the GSP development. So here are some kind of options that we've made. Our budget process currently is very transparent and occurs with public meetings. I walked you through that process in the second slide. We haven't talked about the auditor's office, but audits are a key part of our functioning as a county. They are required. And so all of the transactions that we process are checked by them as well. The grants have allowed us to function as a bigger agency in some years and move ahead with projects and programs. That's why you'll see recharge work and land repurposing that's grant funded, not through the GSA admin fee. The staffing is currently a fairly minimal level. I did look up and see if I could find what % of total costs staffing was at other agencies. We're typically seeing somewhere in the 20 to 25% of total budget being staffing costs for water districts or GSAs. As we know, grants are not a long-term sustainable source of funding. We're currently all living through that, where the state's budget isn't where we are used to it being, and having to find other sources for funds. Currently, the state has little funding. I'd also add that litigation has to be anticipated and is contributing to costs. And I know your board is aware of this irony, but if a grower group is pooling their money and using their money to litigate the county GSA is also using money from growers to defend itself and its actions. So essentially, people are paying twice. We also, as part of demand management, are offering these 3 measurement options. That represents a lot of input, and I know you've heard a lot of complaints about one product in particular. They seem to have gone away. I have not heard a lot of complaints regarding measurement. So although costs for offering 3 measurements are high, and it is unusual to offer that, it seems like we may have found temporarily a sweet spot where people are happy because they have some choice in how that demand management is tracked. The 10% prudent reserve and funds for the GSP 5-year periodic evaluation are very important. And I noted earlier that we're really just completing the first 5-year cycle. So I have a few cost-saving measures that we engage in within the agency that I'll review, and then I think I'm done. So we've taken on the verification work. This is the meter verification project. Staff did all of the field work with some training. That meant taking sometimes weekly, sometimes every other week, sometimes monthly meter reads on people's ranches with their permission and knowledge. Most of the financial analysis that we did over this 5-year period was conducted in-house with help of the auditor's office, and then bringing in Raftellus at the end. I would note that going back and looking at 5 years worth of financial work was a significant work effort on the part of the department. It was over 150 hours. We have the ability to do translation and have done that. That saves costs on hiring out. We also do our in-house communications and outreach work, other than a short consultant contract for about 5 months where we tried out using a firm. We do our in-house grant administration. That is an unusual component. The other GSAs that are managing grants in Madera contract that out. We're doing it in-house, which allows for additional oversight as well as keeping the money for grant administration in-house. And we also do our own tracking of legislative issues in case you need a letter or in case we need to act quickly. And lastly, we've always looked to other organizations, whether it's Farm Bureau or MAWA or our Resource Conservation District, as partnerships for outreach to use and build upon the base that they have. So there are a half dozen things I would like to dig into more on the financial analysis, and I'm happy to refine it as requested by you. We would be happy to meet with constituents as well, and then I would suggest that we distribute in some form the analysis so people understand that their GSA fees are being put to good use and are put to mostly regulatory requirements and on keeping them compliant with the law and to keeping farmers farming. Thank you. That concludes my presentation. I'd be glad to take your questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any questions from the board?
Yeah,
Supervisor Rogers.
I have a couple. Does the multiple option of measurement have proportional costs in some respect? I mean, each one's got to have a cost, right?
It does.
To implement, and maybe with the exception of the meters, but we have a cost as far as like verification and staff time as far as that goes. But the other two have a direct fee in order to participate in the program. That's how they make their money. So probably Earwatch and other one I can't.
Land IQ.
Yeah. They're more expensive, of course, than metering, but in some respect.
Yeah, so that's a good point, and it actually tees up a discussion I'd like to have with the board next year on the multiple options and what the costs are. There's a fair amount of costs that are hidden, meaning our staffing time has increased as metering has been added.
Right.
It's a matter of looking at people's meter photos, sending them the reminders. Often they're not sending us the right photo. It's not totalizing. And kind of being in
So it's a
continuous
learning,
dialogue.
kind of a learning problem.
That's absolutely right. And we started this work at the end of last year, but I think we were too much in the early part of the learning curve. So I do think we can have that conversation next year as a group.
Right.
We have timed EraWatch and Land IQ contracts to end at the end of next year. So there is plenty of time for us to have a reasonable discussion about whether we want to continue offering 3 options, 2 options, 1 option with an ability to use the appeals process.
Right.
All of that could potentially result in some cost savings for
Right.
growers.
And the growers are the ones, they're paying for that. So I like the idea that they have the options, but they need to understand that the options cost.
Hmm.
And that is there's probably a little bit of a disconnect there, not a lot. I think they all understand that there's a certain amount of cost to that. Anyway, that's good. So we'll address that later on a little bit.
Yes.
Secondly, I just wanted to, talk about litigation a little bit and how that comes out of the GSA pocket.
Yep.
That's money we can't use now for getting water sources into the area. That's money, that's gone money. And it keeps happening in such a way that in many ways, and I'm making this kind of a statement for people to generally think about, it's self-defeating because you're almost suing yourself and paying for it yourself. And I want those who are listening to this to think about that. I'm not criticizing anybody. You have the right to stand up and say, I don't agree with this. And this, that's America. The redress of grievance, all of those things are important. But think about this. Not a single lawsuit against the GSA has prevailed or created any significant difference from the GSA's effort to protect the industry. There's not a single one. And yet, I would say millions of dollars have been spent from both sides. And are getting close to it, if not millions. If it keeps going, it will be in the millions.
I mean, I think your point is a good one. It is expensive and you are essentially suing yourself.
Yeah, and wouldn't that money be better spent developing projects? Wouldn't that money be better spent bringing in water sources for the county? Wouldn't that money be better spent working with our neighbor county to develop a source from Merced County that we've talked about? Would that money be better spent trying to lobby for the expansion of Buchanan Dam and getting that done as a match? There's just so many other things that could be done, and I think I say this from the perspective of as a member of the directors of the GSA. I would like to think we've been pretty full of effort in trying to, help the circumstances, try to be understanding. There's just we want to work together. You're what we're here for. We're not here for ourselves we don't love being a regulator. We don't love being a police state. We don't like that. But our job is to regulate, and we have to do it. And we're trying to do it in such a way that doesn't damage the industry. So what I'm trying to say is we're trying to work together. And the next time we think about suing or what have you, think about it long and hard. What is it going to accomplish? Is it really going to accomplish something, or is it just we're just feeding lawyers and wasting money that could be spent saving our circumstances? And I think really, and if you look at the overall picture of what's been happening, I think together we have developed probably a pretty doggone good circumstance from where we were to where we are now. And I say that together because it was farmers who engaged and became part of the discussions early on, and they were part of the committees, and they were the ones that formulated this, and we were following their lead in many respects. And that's what it comes down to. If you want leadership, if you want a direction, then show us the direction you want. And if we can go there, we will go there. And that's all I'm saying. I have no desire to work against the industry. That's my district. It's farming. Mm-hmm. I live on a small ranch myself. I want to see everybody thrive. That's our desire, is to see everybody do well. So anyway, that's the bottom line for me. And coming back to, I guess this could be part of the discussion, and I'm going to make it part of it because we're talking about the budget. Getting to the GSA fees. We just sent out a press release. This is already in public record, so I'm not talking about anything that I don't understand. But we sent out a press release, and some of the text that we sent out was very open. And the reason it's very open and not specific is because the director does not have the ability to be specific, because nothing specific has been decided. And council can correct me if I'm not mistaken on this, but going back to when litigation started and the GSPs were put on hold, this board voted publicly to cease the collection of those fees and to refund the amounts that were given. That happened. And that remains in effect until we change it. So the presumption of a letter I just got in, and I'm not criticizing the letter, It does say if we have this assumption wrong, please tell us. So I'm telling you that the presumption of the text is wrong. That cannot resume until this board, this GSA Board of Directors decides that it resumes and how it resumes. That hasn't been decided. That's why there is no narrative. That's why there is no specifics. So I'm just letting you know it's kind of an answer to a question that was asked. And I think it's a good question, and I'm responding to that anyway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. And next, Supervisor Wamhoff.
Stephanie, thank you for this report and your staff for all the time and dedication and effort they put into this report. It was born out of the need for more transparency, and you have lots of competing interests when it comes to water. Whiskey's for drinking, water's for fighting, right?
So they say.
And we have so many different people who have different interests. And you know what? There's some negatives and positives with having local control. And here we are. However, this local control was bestowed upon our feet, right? When everyone has competing interests. But I just want to say this was done out of certain groups' need and desire to have a better understanding of where the expenses went. And there was a lot of staff time, and hopefully, you know, this does it. I want the presumption that the county is hiding things or trying to, you know, has some ulterior motive to be squashed. We are not trying to hide anything from anybody. We are trying to be as open and transparent as we absolutely can. We have no other interests other than trying to make, you know, farming and growing available and sustainable and following the state law in this county. That's our only motive. So when people have, you know, questions and concerns and those types of things, I welcome them all, but I want everyone to understand from the county's perspective, our motive is to make sure that growers still growing and we have a sustainable farming future. That's it.
Period.
Thank you, Supervisor Wamhoff. At this time, I will open it up for public comment.
By the way, while I got you up there, 8B was included to the public, right? The draft of numbers.
There was a board report
Yeah.
and the PowerPoint has been shared with the clerk of the board and will be
This
posted.
part here.
That's a handout up at the front.
Okay, so there are actual numbers there for
Yep.
anyone that's interested. They can receive that, take it and look at it and have, if they have any questions, feel free to come to us.
Noah?
Noah Lopez with the Madera Ag Water Association. Just want to thank the board first for following through on this request from MAWA. We've been making this request for a number of years, and Stephanie pointed out that this was a significant investment of time on behalf of the staff, but I think there's a very vital reason to invest the time in doing this financial report. In order to support the direction of the GSA, growers need to understand how that $26 per acre that they pay annually is being spent. You know, we saw in the bar graph there, it's a significant portion of the funding for the GSA, and it funds things. And so I think the request isn't based on a presumption that there are some ulterior motives, but it's really founded in the reality that growers need to understand how that investment is being spent. They're investing in local segment implementation here in the county, and they want to understand how that money is being spent and what is happening with their investment. This is our first time seeing this report. We haven't even seen the numbers, the handout up there. So we'll need more time to digest it. And we look forward to meeting here in the next couple of weeks to talk through it. But we're just grateful that we have this report now. And I think it would be beneficial, or we would like to suggest that this kind of financial report be done on an ongoing basis, perhaps annually, so that growers can understand where the GSA is at with their investment they're putting into it. Also want to just thank you for clarifying the resolutions. That's a separate issue, the GSP fees, not the GSA fee, but the GSP fees. I want to thank you for clarifying those resolutions are no longer in effect. If that's how the county interprets those, that's good to hear, and we can talk through that more. And
I
thank you
wouldn't
for
say
addressing
no
that.
longer in effect. I would say on hold.
Okay. Well, it'd be great to talk through it more, but thank you for addressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're welcome. That was my whole purpose.
Appreciate it.
And by the way, we agree with you that, and that's why we directed Stephanie to do this report, because we felt you needed to know. So we've been behind that the whole time.
No, if you can
But it
finish
just,
your comments, please.
go ahead. Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
yeah. Yeah. So I think that just the main message I wanted to put forth is that we are really grateful that we have this report, and we'll spend more time digesting it, understanding it. But it's really important to our members. They've made that very clear, that they understand where this investment is going, right? They're the ones paying for how Sigma is implemented by this public agency. And so understanding how that money is being spent is really important in order to be able to support and move forward with Sigma implementation. So thank you. We look forward to talking about all this more in the future.
Thank you, Noah. Anyone else? Anyone online?
No comments online?
I see
excuse me,
Christina
we do have-
Beckstead has her hand raised.
Christina, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me? Because I know I can't turn on my camera, so can you hear me?
We've got you.
Great. So I too will reiterate and thank staff for putting together this presentation today. I would like to hear from legal counsel. No offense, Supervisor Rogers, but I'd like to hear legal counsel's opinion on that position as far as the letter goes and the status of the fees and where that will potentially end up and if something needs to be changed. And I don't know if legal counsel has had the opportunity to review the letter as well as the resolution, because there are multiple resolutions, I feel like, that are related to this. So on that note, if we have the opportunity at some point to maybe have a little clarification just from legal, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yeah, I'll bring it back to staff.
This item is informational only at this time. I would note you all are seeing every single contract over 50,000 that the county GSA is entering into. So there is a lot that is built into the county structure in terms of transparency, as well as financial auditing that is already in existence.
Let me ask one question real quick if I can. Okay. Just going forward, the request was made that we could do this on an annual basis. Now that the constructs are already there and we can move through it probably much easier. Do you see any problem with that?
I think it should be included in the existing budgeting process. I can talk with Joel about how that might happen, but I don't think
I like
it needs
that
to
idea.
be separate. I think it could be in a process that already exists.
I think that's fair assessment. And so I think you've got what you wanted there.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would just, if I can, it's not typical and it's not advisable for me to provide legal counsel from the dais. I mean, unless there's a request from the board, I'm not hearing that. But I will just say you asked me to correct you, Supervisor Rogers. The board, in terms of ceasing collection, the Chowchilla Prop 218 failed, which didn't allow for the collection. And in the other two groundwater sustainability agencies, there was litigation and an injunction was issued, which caused us to not be able to collect. But Supervisor Rogers was correct that the board decided to refund any collections that had occurred. With regards to any resolutions that have been passed, a couple of them are on hold, as was mentioned, due to litigation. And the timing is interesting because the GSPs, the plans need to be updated, as has been presented to you here coming in the next few months. And with any updates comes an analysis, from what I've heard from Director Anagnuson, of the fees and the recommendations to this board. So it seems to be lining up with some recommendations that the director will be giving with regards to how to move forward since the landscape and the litigation has all been occurring.
Very much. Okay, we will now move back to our regular discussion items. Item 6C was pulled at the request of Assemblywoman Soria. So we will jump to 6D. Madam Clerk.
County Administration Department General Services Division, discussion and consideration of entering an agreement with LeGrand Fig Real Property located at 3469 Yeager Drive in the city of Madera for additional office space and authorize the chairman to sign.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Jessica Leon, County Administration, and with me I do have Jorge Mendoza, Project Manager. And as described by Clerk of the Board, the item before you is a lease agreement with Lee Grant Fig Company and the total amount of $928,575, and this is over a 10-year term for the lease of property located at 3469 Yeager Drive here in the city of Madera. And this is to provide additional office space for the sheriff's office. It is a 5,000 square foot facility. And as mentioned, to provide additional office space for the sheriff's office, they will remain at the Falcon as the main. And then this is just due to outgrowing and we do have Assistant Sheriff Clark here and Jorge, and we're available for any questions that you may have.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I do. I'm just curious as to get a little more understanding as far as what type of operation is going to be taking place and the necessity for the separate building.
Supervisor Jason Clark, Assistant Sheriff. The operations will be at the building will be our investigations detectives. That's a specialty narcotics team as well as our basic detective. The necessity for that is we're running out of office space for our business office, other staff inside the main office that we have. So to move them will free up a lot of office space for us to actually house some of the deputies and business office people that are sharing offices or using common spaces for workstations.
How, and this is because you've outgrown the Falcon building?
Yes. When we moved into the Falcon building some years back, we were, I guess, right at capacity with it or just under. But over the years, we've outgrown that. For example, our business office, when we took back over the jail, or the sheriff took over the jail, we brought the business personnel over to run more efficiently. However, they've outgrown that office, so we took part of the shipping and receiving dock. We converted that into some office cubicles. And we have two employees that are sharing an office right now. So to move the investigations to another building provides more office space so we can actually move them into a more professional and comfortable business area. Also, our specialty team set, we have them in cubicles in our briefing area. That is an area that we could use for patrol briefings and other trainings for patrol, but we've had to put cubicles in there, which took up most of that space or half of that space. We now have a DARE deputy that has just took over from a grant. That person doesn't have an office space to work. She needs to do, even though she is at the schools, she does have some work that she needs to do. So we don't have a place to put her as well, and as well as our SRDs.
How many years left do we have on the Falcon building lease?
I think it's 17 or 18. Moved in there in 2015, 2016, and I think it was a 25-year lease.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a little concerning. I mean, how much do we spend in TIs on that building?
That I don't know, sir.
Which building?
On the Falcon building.
I don't know. It was all that was approved before I was elected.
I mean, this is my concern. I was like, we are, we're at the beginning end of this 25-year lease, and we're already looking at outgrowing and doing all these types of expansions. So, we might need to do some considerations as far as, what proper planning looks like in the future or for a future building, and maybe looking at potential reuses of the Falcon building and building something that's proper. But yeah, I guess I am a little concerned that we are already branching out because of space issues at the Falcon building. So I guess this is a conversation that, well,
Having some
continue on.
similar concerns, and apologies for interrupting.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you're moving people over from corrections? And so now is there space vacated at corrections that's not being used? I mean, because I share some of the supervisors' concerns around, we just built this building, just moved in, our substations in the Ranchos and Oakhurst are all the office space up there. That's all full. I think we're all just a little confused at how we ended up, the shortage of space.
Yes, sir. To answer your question about moving people over from corrections, the only staff that we moved over from corrections was professional staff for the business office. And in order for the business office and the budget to run efficiently, we provided them under one fiscal manager of the supervision that was needed there. That did not provide up much space over at the correction side, as they shared an office there, from what I recall. That's still being utilized on the correction side. I don't know exactly what for, but I know it is still being utilized with staff there. We are growing. I think with this expansion, it'll give us plenty of time to figure out a future plan for future expansion, where we need to go from there. The office spaces that we have in Oakhurst, our deputies are up there. They do fill up that office space as well. This is just more for our investigation to be in one place.
Anyone else?
The building was under design when it was constructed. It should have been larger. It was full when we moved in, and as the assistant sheriff described, we had to take some meeting room and other areas and turn them into office space as far back as 2016, 2017. So that is a conundrum, but would certainly be happy to look at doing something that coincides with the future and whether we move that operation to a different location, more centrally located with the population center of the county, or whatever the board's will is, so that we don't spend the next 50 years spending money on leases.
Yeah, I mean, because what is this going to amount to annually?
It starts off with there's a lease payment schedule, and I think it's 80,000 yearly for year 1, and then it ends up being 105,000 at year 10.
Okay. How much of this 5,000 square feet is actually going to be utilized right out of the gate?
Can you repeat the question?
How much of the 5,000 square feet is going to be utilized immediately upon move-in? And how much of that is scheduled for future growth?
I think a majority of it is going to be used right out the gate. We do have a request to provide the furniture, cubicle, and office space and equipment necessary to move them over there. There should be some room for some growth. I couldn't give you exact numbers, but it's going to utilize at least 3/4 probably.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I'm unfamiliar with the location of this new facility and in proximity to the existing sheriff's. Can you kind of give me an idea there?
I think we'd prefer not to, based on what's going to be put
I'm
there, but
sorry.
it's in the
Can you
same.
just say how many miles away it is?
Maybe a quarter mile.
Okay.
It'll be non-branded based on the operations. So
Do you see any problem with being decentralized in that regard?
No, there should be no problem.
Okay, do we have any members of the public who would like to comment on this item? Do we have anyone online?
No comments online.
I'll bring it back to the board. What is your pleasure?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
And Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor Chair Gonzalez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Thank you. Item 6E.
6E, Sheriff's Coroner's Office, Sheriff's Office, Detective Office's discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue 24-22 in the amount of $275,668 derived from County Local Revenue Fund AB 118 small revenue sheriffs to operation transfers out general fund for fiscal year 2024-2025. 4 votes are required. Discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue number 24-023 in the amount of $275,668 derived from Sheriff's Corner operating trans into fixed assets for fiscal year 2024-2025. 4 votes are required.
Thank you.
Jason Clark, Assistant Sheriff. So with that, from our previous conversation, this request is to transfer those funds from the Small Rural Sheriff's Fund to outfit that office with cubicles, office and necessary equipment to house the investigation detectives.
Any questions from the board? Anyone in the public wishing to comment? Anyone online?
None online.
I'll bring it back to the board.
Move to approve.
Second.
First and a second roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Warmhoff?
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Item 6F.
Sheriff Coroner's Office, Sheriff's Office Grant Equipment Adjustment, discussion and consideration of approval of transfer of appropriations number 24-036 in the amount of $100,000 from County Local Revenue Fund, AB 118, Small Rural Sheriffs to Operation Transfers Out, General Fund for fiscal year 2024-2025. 4 votes are required. Discussion and consideration of approval of receipt of unanticipated revenue 24-3037 in the amount of $100,000 derived from Sheriff's Corner operating transfers into fixed assets for fiscal year 2024-2025. 4 votes are required.
Again, Jason Clark, Assistant Sheriff. We're requesting the transfer of the amount of $100,000 Small Rural Sheriff's Fund to cover the costs of the equipment purchases that we received from the department, or the grant from the Department of Health and Human Services. We applied for the grant, we received the grant funding. However, the grant funding fell short for some of the costs of the equipment, such as the taxes and shipping, which this money will be used to cover that.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Anyone online?
No comments online.
Bring it back to the board.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Warmhoff?
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6G.
Water and Natural Resources Department, discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution establishing the County of Madera Drought Plan for Senate Bill 552.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members of the board. Here to walk you through the SB 552 drought plan. I have Greg Young from Zonhero on Zoom. So Senate Bill 552 is a Hertzberg bill. It was signed into law in 2021, and it adds new responsibilities for counties. Under SB 552, counties are identified as the best equipped entity to provide leadership for water resilience planning, and the intent is to help small water suppliers and rural communities. So here's a graphic that kind of shows you all of the drought planning that goes on around the state. On the left-hand side, you'll see larger water suppliers. They do urban water management plans, and that's where their drought and water shortage contingency planning happens. So that's the left end of the spectrum with larger water suppliers, like City of Madera would be one. And then at the other end of the plan of the spectrum, you'll see a blue box, and that's around the county's responsibilities for planning. And these are really in 2 groups. One are small suppliers that are 5 to 14 connections. And then another is people with domestic wells, which we've discussed a number of times. So what exactly are the requirements for counties? You need to have either a task force or a standing group to talk about drought issues and help with education and outreach. We already have that with the drought working group. You also have to develop a plan, and that's what you're looking at now, which demonstrates potential risks and what your solutions might be. So we've been working with Sunharrow for the past couple of years in order to develop that plan. So in terms of outreach actions with this plan, we began our work in 2022, announcing that we were preparing the plan and inviting a number of local agencies, organizations to engage in plan development. And then we've had a number of input sessions in 2022 on the plan. Now, why is this all in 2022 when I'm here in 2024? The actual implementation of this plan required a little contribution from the general fund. It's about $65,000, and it went into the current year's budget. So we paused to make sure we did not agree to do something we didn't have funding to do. So there are 5 parts to the plan: a background section, identification of the risks for self-supplied communities, opportunities for consolidation. And I'll say this because I know sometimes consolidation is alarming. These are voluntary consolidations. The state is very big into consolidations at the moment, but of course, the problem is there are not as many opportunities as you would like in Madera. The systems are simply too far apart for the most part. Section 4 is a shortage response plan, and then there's conclusions and recommendations. So these are minimum requirements under the law. Here's an example of one of the things we're required to do, which is use a state tool. Supervisor McCullough, you may appreciate this. The higher risk areas are all within District 5. So what puts you at risk in this tool? A number of things, but it includes having single wells that are supplying a home, income, and even things like broadband access or lack thereof, because communication is harder the slower your internet is. So in the plan itself, there is an action plan with different drought stages and triggers. The county can monitor these factors in the late spring. For example, groundwater decline is monitored. That's available in the GSP annual reports. Dry wells can be monitored at any time. And then the current year hydrology comes from a state publication. For example, this year we are at 101% of normal. So you monitor these conditions, and they can then trigger a stage of the drought. And at different stages, you have different responsibilities for education and outreach and partnerships. The plan outlines 3 options, which can come back to your board for a decision at a later time. But it's in terms of how the droughts are tracked. One way to track them would be by the districts, the supervisor districts. Another would be by census blocks, which is the bottom left. And another, which is a little bit more complicated, would be a radius around flagged criteria. Sample responses might include accessing state funding, contracting with partners for temporary solutions, outreach, seeking state or federal proclamations, or mutual aid agreements. So as this is required by law and this plan meets the minimum requirements and goes above and beyond, we are recommending a staff adoption. And we can come back to do a drought update in the new year. You will have to choose a way of tracking the drought, whether it's by districts or another method. Let's check with Greg and see if you'd like to add anything, if you don't mind, Tatiana.
I guess I will stay off camera. Thank you, Stephanie. I did not have anything to add, but I'm able to answer any questions if they come up.
we are happy to take your questions on the drought plan compliant with SB 552.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any members of the board?
I'll opine here for a quick second, and I've talked with a couple of you about this in the past, but I think this is the map that you pointed out is a good reason why I think geographically we have some issues the way our districts are set up. I really don't think it's appropriate that one supervisor has 2/3 of the county, because geographic issues, population issues, while they may differ a little bit, I think there's some issues that would be better served if we had multiple representatives, taking on some of these challenges. I know we work together as a board to address challenges, but again, I think this map, when we talk about special districts, I think it really highlights the need to maybe think about redistricting. So that's all I have to say. It doesn't really have anything to do with the action plan. Do appreciate your staff attending meetings at the Regional Water Management Group and all the outreach efforts that you guys have taken. Thank you for this.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So are you not in favor of making it supervisorial districts? Or
I think, yeah. I think so.
what is your recommendation?
I think, I would look to staff and see how we can challenge back it. I'm not saying that this specifically, we need to make decisions based on supervisorial districts, but I'm just saying in the future, when we look towards redistricting, I think that it's important that we take more consideration into geography and the issues that come along with geography, whether that's, arsenic in wells or fire risk reduction. These challenges that come with the mountain communities, that come with the foothill communities, I think it would be great. That's all I'm saying.
Do we have anyone from the public? I believe we
Yes.
had Christina online. Yeah. Go ahead, Christina.
Thank you. Just a quick question. Obviously, this is a public plan. As the implementation rolls out and data is made available, can we anticipate that information or efforts maybe could be shared with the nitrate control programs that are currently underway in both Madera and Chowchilla?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Anyone else? I'll bring it back
Nobody
to
else.
the board.
Move to approve?
Second?
A roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Wamhaugh,
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers,
Yes.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Stephanie. Moving on to item 9A.
County Administration Department discussion and consideration of approval to ratify a letter expressing concerns regarding the proposed Range of Life National Monument Act.
Thank you, Madam Chair and the rest of the board. This letter was forwarded previously by Supervisor McCauley, Supervisor Maxig, and Supervisor Menetry from Madera, Fresno, and Mariposa in opposition to the adoption or change of the Sierra National Forest into the Range of Light National Monument that would create a significant number of issues and problems throughout our mountain districts in our 3 counties. Has been submitted both to our state representatives and to our federal representatives already. So we're looking for ratification on that one.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Do we have any public comment on this item? And roll call vote, please.
Supervisor McCauley,
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh.
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Item 9B.
County Administration Department discussion and consideration to submit a letter of concern to the California Natural Resources and California Department of Fish and Wildlife regarding the increased frequency of interactions between bears and residents within the wildland urban interface of Madera County.
I like that shorthand, support and submit. So we're going to do that. Anyways, this letter is addressed to Secretary Crowfoot of California Natural Resources as well as the director of California Department of Fish and Wildlife, Bonham, has to do with our concerns about outgoing interactions that aren't so great between the bear population in Madera County and our permanent citizens and those that visit here. We're looking for approval of this letter.
Move to approve.
Second.
Do we have any public comment on this item? Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
The Chair Gonzalez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
And then earlier this morning, we had an addition to the agenda, item 9C. I believe it's the letter of support.
Sure. This is a letter, 9C is a letter of recommendation to Tony Tavares, the director of California Department of Transportation, or Caltrans, regarding our preference as it in terms of Diane Gomez's retirement and who we would like to see take the reins of District 6, which is our particular Caltrans district. We have a specific recommendation in here of Mr. Mike Navarro, and we also have stated that if for some reason that is not the better solution, that they would pick someone from the local office, because we think that's in the best interest of Madera County.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Move to approve.
Second, I just want to make a quick comment. I've been working with Mike for 16 years and he's been great. And I just think he's the right guy for the job. So I really hope that they'll consider that in the options.
And that letter has been signed by Chairman Poitras before he took off last week.
Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor McCauley?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wamhaugh?
Yes.
Chair Gonzalez?
Yes.
Vote passes 4-0.
Thank you.
We will now move on to supervisor and staff reports, beginning with Supervisor Wamhaugh.
Yeah, yesterday I had the privilege to attend the pancake breakfast for Veterans Day out at Tesoro Viejo, put on by the McCaffreys, Tesoro Viejo, sponsored by Caglia and Ponderosa. It was just a good event and really well attended. And then I jumped over to Courthouse Park, and where me and Supervisor Gonzalez presented a couple certificates of, or 4 certificates of recognition to 4 of our Madera County veterans. Last Friday, I was able to present a certificate of recognition to Liberty High School principal Candace Osborne. She had taken on the task of creating or reinventing an honor wall, which is pretty cool at the high school. It's a wall that has each branch of armed forces, that puts the students' names, whoever attended that school, and what branch the armed forces they went in. So nice way to serve as a reminder for those students, their fellow students who have, made the choice and answered the call to serve. Had a meeting with the superintendent of Golden Valley Unified in response to traffic control suggestions around Webster Elementary. We met with county staff and provided some insight and direction. We're going to be working on that as well. And I'm going to leave my report at that for now.
Thank you. Supervisor McCauley?
Yeah, lots of exciting stuff going up in District 5, but nothing more exciting than world champion logger Nate Hodges, who is world champion. What else can I say? Local resident up in North Fork, started participating in the Loggers Jamboree, I think like 10 years ago, because he didn't want to see the event go away. Lo and behold, he's actually pretty good at the competition and made a profession out of it. So pretty proud of him. I think the community is really proud of him, and hopefully we can get him here sometime in the near future to recognize him for his accomplishments.
Hey, Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah, for Veterans Day, I was a guest speaker at Chowchilla Veterans Park, and the Veterans VFW 9896 and American Legion Post 148, both quite involved, as well as the Sons of American Legion, of which I'm a member. I centered my comments around three things: that vets live sacrificial lives, that they give 100%, and that they are all heroes. And there were two particular individuals that I spoke about during that address. One was Richard Winters, Major Richard Winters of the 506th Regiment of the 101st Airborne. And this is a man who is decorated with 2 Bronze Stars, Croix de Guerre with Palm twice, the Distinguished Service Cross. And yet when his grandchildren asked him, "Grandfather, were you a hero?" And he said, "No, but I served in the company of heroes." So there's another attribute that accompanies heroes, and that is humility. And then under giving, the Bible says, no man can give a greater gift than this, than he lay down his life for his friend. And there's a story of one lieutenant in the Idrang Valley who served under Colonel Hal Moore. And that the Idrang was the first conflict between the North Vietnamese and the American forces. And there were 300 Americans wounded and over 300 killed in that conflict. And the first, and as well as over 4,000 Vietnamese on that very spot. The first person killed in that conflict was this young lieutenant, and his name escapes me, and I'm sorry for that because he's such an important person. But as he was moving his platoon forward, he was shot in the chest, and he lay on the ground as his life's blood flowed out. And he said to his friends, wow, really gets me. "I'm thankful that I could give my life for my country." Wow, what a statement. Nobody gives more than the American veteran. Thank you for your service, all.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'll just report briefly that I too attended the Veterans Day services. This is my favorite time of year because you have Veterans Day and Thanksgiving coming, and with the elections just occurring, it's just a nice time of year. I also want to just commend Rebecca Martinez, our county clerk recorder, and all of her staff and all of the volunteers for a seamless election. It was a busy time, but the impact at the government center and all the election polling sites was great. So thank you to all of them for everything that they did. I want to again welcome Jessica to the team. Very excited to have her on board. And I'll be attending CSAC next week. I think a number of us will be. And I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving because we won't see you until December. So enjoy this time with your family and friends and however you choose to celebrate. So thank you.
Thank you.
CAO Varney.
So I attended the breakfast and the concert at the Clovis Memorial District yesterday. If you ever get a chance, I know most of you have obligations here in the county, but if you ever get a chance, it was very impressive. And it's what's exciting about it is the band is actually the Clovis. It's all folks from Clovis that do that because they like to play, not because they're actually a paid professional band. So that was interesting. I also attended a meeting in San Jose last week regarding Care Court, along with 4 other staff members, including 3 from BHS and 1 from County Council. Came away with some good operational ideas as we move closer to Care Court opening December 1st. That's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you. County Council
No report, Chair. Thank you.
and Clerk of the Board.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
You have a happy early birthday to the Clerk of the Board.
Thank you. Don't
Okay.
sing. Don't sing. Thank you.
Okay, with that, our next meeting is December 3rd, and we will resume back to closed session or right now?
Yep.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are back from closed session. County Council, do we have any reportable actions?
Chairman, there's no reportable action from closed session.
Okay, thank you very much. And with that, we stand adjourned.